All right, guys, I'm here at Costco in Miami. I'm kind of digging this whole Miami life, so we'll see. But I'm not digging the fish in Costco in Miami. They definitely didn't catch it fresh. Come on inside Costco with me. I'm gonna show you how to shop for salmon and some other fish at Costco. There's a lot of misleading stuff with salmon. You guys may have heard about dyes and colorings and carbon monoxide and misleading things, but I'm gonna break it all down for you. If you don't understand this stuff, you're gonna end up buying the wrong type of fish at Costco. You're gonna end up paying more, and you might even find out they're charging you extra at Costco to take the antibiotics out of your farm-raised salmon. So come on, let's go. And I know you guys are gonna make a comment about this. My phone is always on airplane mode. It's always on airplane mode, even when it's in my back pocket. All right, guys, so there are two main types of salmon at Costco. The most common type of salmon here is Atlantic salmon. There is no wild Atlantic salmon ever, essentially ever, unless it's line caught. You might be able to go on a boat and catch a wild salmon in the Atlantic Ocean, but anytime you see Atlantic salmon on a label, it is farm raised. And you'll see on all of these Atlantic salmon labels that farm raised means color added, because a farm raised salmon is not getting its color from the food it's eating. Wild salmon gets its color from krill. And there's a pigment in krill, astaxanthin, that acts as an antioxidant. It's probably good for humans. That's what gives the wild salmon its rich orange color. Different types of wild salmon have more color. Sockeye salmon is the most red salmon. That has this deep red orange color. It eats a lot of krill, and you get a lot of astaxanthin in sockeye. Coho's in the middle. It's a little more orange. And then king salmon sometimes is even white or just light orange because it eats less of these. King salmon actually has an enzyme that prevents it from metabolizing astaxanthin. King salmon is my favorite when it's wild, but this Atlantic salmon doesn't look like this color unless it's fed beta carotene in the feed. So what is the problem with Atlantic salmon? What is the problem with farm-raised salmon? They're raised in pens or open nets in the ocean. All of those salmon clustered together mean that they have lots of pollution associated with them. They're all together, they share diseases, they have to be fed antibiotics, they're fed pellets of food which are contaminated with pesticides, heavy metals, they get illnesses, they're pooping all over each other, they're eating each other's poop. It's a very festering, unsafe, unclean place to raise salmon. If they're in a net in the ocean, it actually pollutes the ocean around where the net is. This is a process called eutrophication, where those salmon in the net actually pollute the ocean around them. So farm raising of salmon is not good for the ocean, it's not good for the environment, and it's not good for the salmon themselves. So this farm-raised salmon is much higher in things like PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls. It's also higher in PFAs. Those are forever chemicals. It's probably gonna be higher in heavy metals because of the way it's raised. So I would never, ever, ever eat a piece of farm-raised salmon, guys. And I need to tell you a secret about farm-raised salmon. I'm in Miami right now, and I've been to a couple of restaurants here recently, and you'll see something on the menu. I'm going to really nice restaurants. It's usually $50 or $60 for a piece of Faroe Island salmon. That's farm-raised Atlantic salmon from the Faroe Islands by Norway. It's just a fancy way of saying farm-raised salmon. Total BS, guys. Do not buy Faroe Island salmon at a restaurant. That's not what you want. But, so fresh Atlantic salmon, no good. Do not buy farm-raised salmon. Do not be misled by Atlantic salmon. And I'm gonna show you guys that there's a lot of other ways that they trick you with this farm-raised salmon as Atlantic salmon when you have like the lox, like the smoked salmon over here too. So this farm-raised salmon would not be this color if it had not been fed coloring in the feed. So this is the color that farm-raised salmon would be. This is not actually farm-raised salmon, but this is the color the farm-raised salmon would be if coloring was not added to the salmon. So farm-raised salmon is actually this color. It's actually stark white because it doesn't eat krill. It doesn't get the astaxanthin that wild salmon gets. And while I'm here, before I show you guys the smoked salmon over there, I want to talk about ahi real quick. You guys may have seen a reaction video I did about ahi recently on Instagram. I'm going to put some clips from that video. There was recently a lot of interest in the process of making ahi tuna look fresh and look this deep reddish orange color. And what they're doing with a lot of this ahi that's old, it's kind of old and brown and gray, and they're cutting off the old brown gray parts. They're actually adding coloring to it in the factory of various types, and they're filling it with a carbon monoxide gas in freezers to make it look this fresh red color. So I'm not a huge fan of ahi tuna in general because it's very high in heavy metals. Salmon is lower in heavy metals, but if you eat the majority of your diet as fish, even if it's salmon, you're going to have high levels of lead, mercury, cadmium, and arsenic, guys. And we probably won't even talk about shellfish in this video, but shellfish like mussels or clams or oysters, they're bottom feeders, they're benthic organisms, which means they're going to accumulate different heavy metals. They have things like cadmium in them. So look, I love shrimp, I love scallops, but they're just full of heavy metals also. So like fish is tough, guys. When you're thinking about fish, you want to get the cleanest fish. Don't eat farm-raised fish. Ahi tuna, full of heavy metals, especially mercury. I mean, if you eat ahi tuna every day for a week and test your mercury levels before and after, you'll see them go through the roof. Mercury poisoning is called hatterism. This is a reference to Alice in Wonderland. You guys remember the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland? The hatters that used to make the hats during the time of Alice in Wonderland used mercury on the felt, and they would get so sick from mercury toxicity that they became kind of crazy and wild. So I have seen diagnosed cases of hatterism, mercury toxicity, from eating too much ahi tuna in sushi restaurants. So be careful with ahi tuna in light of the fact that it's mostly being colored. It's being soaked with carbon monoxide gas to make it look nice. Crazy video, I'll show you guys. And it is full of heavy metals. It's delicious, but it's just too contaminated now for me. So what's the problem with heavy metals? We're talking about lead, mercury, cadmium, and arsenic generally. You guys know arsenic is found in rice. Lead, mercury, cadmium, a lot in fish. What's the problem? They're an oxidative stress for your body. They're stressful for your body to clear them. You have to detoxify them. Lead poisoning is associated with developmental delay in kids, neurodevelopmental issues, decreased IQs. It happens in adults too. It can be a hormonal disruptor, and they're also associated with potentially precancerous lesions across the human body. So heavy metals, horrible for humans. You've heard of lead poisoning in kids. I told you about mercury toxicity. Hatterism makes you go crazy if you get too much. It can cause hematopoietic. It can cause issues with blood cell formation. That's hematopoiesis. Cadmium is associated with certain cancers of the bone marrow or the blood or even lymphoma. Heavy metals are horrible for humans. We're always exposed to a little bit of them. But you want to be careful about eating things that are super, super high in heavy metals. Even chocolate is kind of high in heavy metals. Rice, arsenic, especially fish. So be careful of heavy metals. Be careful of ahi tuna for a lot of reasons. Let me show you guys the smoked salmon over here. This has a lot of issues too. Smoked Atlantic sliced salmon loin. It's wrapped in seaweed. Look, product of Greece. We all love Greece, but it's Atlantic salmon. So it's certainly farm raised. And you can see here on the ingredients, salmon with color added. This one also has smoke added or smoke flavor, which is not something you want to be eating. But even though it looks fancy, it's got the Greek flag on it. It's a smoked salmon. That's Atlantic salmon, and it's going to have coloring. It's going to be farm raised. Kirkland signature smoked salmon, farm raised. What does the back say? Color added. You don't want that, guys. You don't want the PCBs. You don't want the microplastics. You don't want the heavy metals. You don't want all of the extra contaminants, the antibiotics, the other medicines they're feeding the salmon. You don't want the pesticides that are going into this. It's just a very, very low quality salmon. I mentioned microplastics a couple of times. You guys have heard me talk about this in the past. These are the little fragments of plastics that accumulate all throughout our world. They're all over. And they do accumulate in fish. If you look at the amount of microplastics you're getting, a big source of microplastics is your drinking water. In fact, there's been recent evidence that bottled drinking water is super high in microplastics, containing hundreds of thousands or millions of particles of microplastics in a liter of water. But another huge source of microplastic contamination is fish. And look, microplastics are in everything. Yes, they've been found in beef, but in much, much lower levels. Microplastics are very high in fish, and they're also associated with developmental issues, endocrine disruption. There's been some evidence that you have gram quantities of microplastics in your brain, in the testicles, in ovaries. Every single organ of our body is full of microplastics. It's kind of like heavy metals. We can't fully avoid it, but we should probably be aware of where we're getting it and minimize this. Now, any seafood is going to have microplastics, but I suspect that farm-raised salmon is going to be worse. Again, honey maple smoked salmon, Blue Hill Bay smoked seafood. So again, you have to look really hard to find out that this is farm-raised salmon. It's very misleading. Astaxanthin is a carotenoid used in the feed of farm-raised Atlantic salmon. It is in the same family as vitamin A. Carotenoids are part of the natural diet consumed by salmon in the wild and give salmon its distinctive color. This is Atlantic salmon. So they're giving the salmon astaxanthin to get its color, but the salmon is not eating krill. It's not eating its full diet. That's like pretending a cow is grass-fed just because you're giving it a little bit of green pigment that it might have gotten in the grass, but it's not getting anything else good that you're getting in the grass, all the other nutrients. So the nutrient profile of this meat is going to be different. Like I said, it's going to have more PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls, which are endocrine disrupting, potentially precancerous, all kinds of issues. But what I want you guys to see about the salmon in Costco is that there's a lot of Atlantic salmon here. The majority of salmon in Costco is Atlantic salmon, and it's all farm raised. Do not eat farm raised salmon. In fact, do not eat any farm raised fish. What are the better options? I think that the better option would be a wild salmon. And again, don't make salmon the majority of your diet. Don't make fish the majority of your diet. If you're fearing red meat, you need to watch all of my other videos, guys. Red meat is not harmful for you. I think when you actually get down to the brass tacks of this, grass-fed, grass-finished meat, especially beef, lamb, or venison or bison, is probably some of the cleanest meat on the planet you can eat, because it's eating what it's supposed to eat for all of its life. And if you find a good farmer, it's preferably organic. It's not going to have any of the grass sprayed, no pesticides. That's clean food. But what have we been told? We've been brainwashed into thinking that red meat is bad for us because it raises your cholesterol. And I don't worry about that at all, especially if you're insulin sensitive. So we've been told the wrong things. We've been told eat fish, but now we know fish is full of toxins, and the majority of what you can get easily is farm-raised garbage, which is not contributing to your good health. Or eat chicken because it's not going to raise your cholesterol as much. Well, look, chicken has the same amount of cholesterol in it as beef. The only difference is chicken has less saturated fat in it, but we know very clearly saturated fat is not bad for humans. So what do I think the answer is? I think the answer is eat grass-fed beef. If you want to eat salmon every once in a while, great. Don't eat farm-raised salmon. Don't be fooled by Faroe Islands salmon, and think about organs every once in a while you're doing that as well. Now, one of the things I'm going to do in this video is take you to an actual fish shop, which is going to have a much better selection of fish than this Costco. And there I will show you a little more about wild salmon. Maybe they'll have some different salmon colors, so I could show you a coho versus a sockeye versus a king salmon. That's probably where you'd want to buy salmon. I know a lot of you guys shop at Costco. This is a popular place, but if you're here, know that most salmon here is farm raised. Let's go back over to the other side. Okay, so before we get out of here in Costco, I asked them, they don't have any wild salmon right now. So they usually have it in stock, but it will say wild salmon. You can see here, it says on the labels, this is fresh, whole branzino. It says farm raised. They've got fresh, whole sea bream, farm raised. I think they've got some wild fish down here. This is a fresh, wild Corvina fillet. I've never had Corvina, but it actually says it's wild. That ahi tuna says wild, and this is wild Chilean sea bass. So it will say wild. So I think the best you could do at Costco is to find a wild salmon. If you want to eat smaller fish, that's fine, but realize that even things like sardines or anchovies are going to have a lot of the same problems. They're mostly wild, but they're still going to have heavy metals. I mean, there's lots of stories of people getting heavy metal toxicity from eating even too many anchovies or too many sardines. Joe Rogan has talked about this. And I think it's kind of hilarious. I'll just mention this while I'm here, that they have a salmon colored bag for the salmon. It's hilarious. I don't know why I think that's interesting, but anyway, salmon colored bag for the salmon, but it's still farm raised. So not a huge fan of any of that, guys. So let me show you a few things that I think are better, and then we'll go to the fish market. Yes, I know this is a video about fish, but I want to show you that Costco does have grass-fed beef, American-raised, grass-fed, grass-finished beef, 85% lean. I like that. I like some fat in my ground beef. This is grain-finished. That Wagyu over there is also grain-finished. People always ask me this question about Wagyu. Wagyu is a breed of cow, and it does not necessarily mean that the cow is any better. It's just a fattier breed of cow. I like fat in my meat. I think it's good for humans, but this is American-raised Wagyu. I almost said American-raised Wagyu. But this does not have any grass finishing. This is definitely a grain-fed Wagyu, so don't be fooled by that. I have seen grass-finished Wagyus. There's a company out of New Zealand that's a grass-finished Wagyu, a grass-fed, grass-finished Wagyu. That's amazing. I also know from other times that I've been in Costco that in the freezer section, they have a frozen set of patties that are grass-fed patties, and they're like $5 a pound. So it's very affordable to eat grass-fed beef here. It's probably half the price of the salmon. I didn't know, I want to show you guys this real quick. Even that farm-raised salmon is twice as expensive as grass-fed beef. So why are you eating salmon again? Look at the prices on this. Look at this, guys. $10 a pound, $35 for 3.54 pounds of salmon. Over there, you can get 6.5 pounds of grass-fed beef for $25. You do the math. I think the grass-fed beef is healthier, less toxic, less full of garbage, better for you. It tastes better, and it's not full of all the other crappy stuff I was talking about in the salmon, but Why are you eating salmon? Because you think it's healthy, but you've been psyoped. You've been psyoped. All right, guys, I want to show you something else about the salmon at Costco. This one right here is $10 a pound. This one is $12 a pound. What's the difference? You're gonna pay an extra $2 more per pound for it to be raised without antibiotics. How crazy is that? $2 more per pound to not have antibiotics in your salmon. That's crazy, guys. $2 more a pound. So you can get super cheap Atlantic salmon, which is definitely raised with antibiotics, like I was telling you about, which are in the meat, or you can pay $12 a pound for no antibiotics. That's crazy. So Costco doesn't have any fresh wild salmon today, but they have a couple different types of wild Alaskan salmon that's frozen. You've got wild Kita salmon, wild sockeye salmon. And like I said, you can see even in the picture how orange that sockeye is, because sockeye eats a lot of krill with a lot of astaxanthin. I mean, you can see the color of the wild salmon. There's no coloring in that, and it has a really nice color. You see the ingredients are just sockeye salmon. That's it. Now again, guys, I wouldn't make fish the majority of your diet, but if you want to eat fish every once in a while, eat wild salmon. All right, guys, check this out. I misspoke a little bit. You can get 5 pounds of grass-fed beef for $27, as opposed to 3.5 pounds of salmon that's farm-raised for $35. What the heck? That is crazy. Look, $5.53 a pound for grass-fed beef versus $9 a pound for garbage salmon. Insane. We've been psyoped. And while I'm in front of this grass-fed beef, I got to tell you, I have a free newsletter, guys. Every Sunday, I drop all sorts of knowledge on you, just like this, that will make your life better. I'll put a link here if you guys want to sign up for that. I will see you on Sunday in the newsletter. Don't miss it. I put a lot of work into this. It's going to make your life better. Okay, I'm going to take you guys to the actual fishmonger. I'm going to ask him if he's called a fishmonger. Take you to the fishmonger now, show you some more fish there. Let's go over. So you got some king salmon here.
No, king salmons are these.
This is king
Ora
salmon?
King.
Oh, this is king?
Yeah, Ora King.
Ora King, where's that from?
From New Zealand.
That's from New Zealand?
Yeah.
Cool. And this is the Faroe Island. But this is farm raised.
Yeah, both are actually.
Oh, this is farm raised,
They
king
are.
salmon.
Yeah, king salmons are also, they're farm raised but organic.
Interesting. Tell me about that.
They're offshore pens, completely organic. Basically, the pristine, clean waters that they do out in New Zealand, taken offshore, and they hold them offshore in deep water pens. So it's like you're not having to deal with water filtrations, antibiotics, hormones.
So no antibiotics.
Yeah, none of that.
And what do they feed them?
They feed them with natural feed. So the same thing, like they're grabbing up, netting out different, krills and shrimps and this and then they turn them into a pellet form in order to feed them.
So does that have any coloring added?
No color added.
So that's actually farm raised salmon with no color added. But there's probably color added to the Faroe Island.
Not color added. It's
No.
It's the carotene, the
carotenoids from
the feed.
From the feed.
Right. It's actually it's the same thing. They do natural feed with it the same way there. The Faroe's also offshore pens done.
Interesting.
It's not the same as like the Chileans or the
Atlantic.
Right.
It's not the same as Norwegian.
It's the same species, meaning all those species are all the same. And this is their North Atlantic species of salmon.
Okay.
All the salmon on that side are considered on that.
Okay.
But in the way that they're farmed, same, like having more of an organic style farm versus having a commercially large produced.
Traditional. So there's different levels of farming.
Very different levels when it comes to the farming.
Do you guys have any wild salmon?
No, not this time of year, because all the wild salmon this time of year is frozen. So it'd be frozen, thawed out, and I'll just be putting it out.
So what time of year do you get wild salmon?
End of spring, early summer. They'll start to come around.
Okay, so soon.
Soon.
But wild salmon, fresh wild salmon is seasonal.
Correct.
Because I've seen that, you can only get non-frozen king salmon certain times of the year.
Yeah, because the king salmons have quotas, so when they're being caught, they're fresh. It's in end of spring or early summer, goes like that. They kind of hit a quota, and then the rest, there's a large quantity that ends up going into the Alaskans and all that. That's why I tell people usually if you're looking for that wild, true stuff, you're better off ordering cryovac frozen from an Alaskan company.
Yeah,
like that,
all year round.
Year round, because you're thawing it out yourself. Why are you going to buy it at a place that's thawing it out for you and then telling you it's fresh?
Right. What do you think about the taste between a frozen or a never, or like a fresh, like a never
There's a big difference.
So like,
but it depends. If you can get one that's done like in a super freeze, like done like straight from the water, they're done like instant freeze into like a super freeze. The taste will hold better because the water crystals inside the meat won't like be breaking down the actual meat structure itself. They'll taste better and they could be pretty good. I mean, but if you put two next to each other, never frozen, and you can taste it.
Totally different.
Yeah.
So
you can always taste the difference. It's just it's very slight. Like it's slight. If it's done right.
yeah.
If it's done like in a regular freezer in your refrigerator, there's a bigger difference because the time that it takes for you to freeze the salmon is much longer.
So are these frozen and then thawed? These are fresh.
Never frozen. That's why I don't sell the wild salmon and stuff like that because I don't want frozen products.
So it's all a fresh product,
Right.
but this is a organically farmed,
Correct.
fresh product.
It's still farm product, but it's a higher level
Farming product.
Right.
So at Costco, if they have an Atlantic salmon at Costco, is that, I guess I don't know if it says, like, is it thawed? Is it pre-frozen?
Usually, I feel like there's stuff that I don't really know what they're putting out there.
Yeah.
I really have no idea what they're putting out there, but usually I would say for the most part, unless they're selling a fresh product, which they can still get like fresh Chilean, which would be considered North Atlantic or Norwegian or one of those, they can get fresh product brought in that way. So it could be fresh.
I guess it says on the
shelf life. The question is the shelf life on how long it's out because they also sit for a much longer period of time. A lot of supermarkets and markets that do fish from harvest, especially on farm fish, from date of harvest to sell by date is a weird
kind of a window do you have there?
They have, according to like the FDA standards, and that's like it's long. It's like 2 weeks, like 14 days.
So technically they can go two weeks between when it's caught and when it's sold without freezing it.
Right.
Okay.
And like stuff like I do from harvest date to in stores 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
So these were harvested 3 to 4 days ago.
Right, exactly.
Could you use this for sushi or you're not supposed to?
No, yes.
You could.
Yeah. So there's two things about that play weird. Because there's like the sushi grade. There's the weird like play on the whole thing. Because it is all sushi grade because it's farmed. Has no parasites there because
it's farmed. It has no parasites. They can tell because wild salmon.
Right, wild salmon always has parasites.
Parasites.
They always want to freeze them.
They have to freeze it for sushi. So I've heard. Is it true?
When they're farmed, they don't have to be technically frozen.
Really?
Because the feed and they're going through, like they're still going through a processing facility, so they're checking. Each one are numbered, like literally they come number tagged, like where you can trace the line all the way through.
Yeah.
So. Depends on where you are in the world, and there's no real standard on how. The Japanese all use they're more freezing all the time. They use all pretty much wild fish, except there is some of their salmon. They're not very big on salmon.
For sushi.
Yeah, for sushi over there. Here they are, but you can use stuff like Faro and Hurricane in sushi without it being frozen.
Because most of the time when I get salmon, wild salmon sushi at a sushi place is 100% frozen.
Always.
And it must be like deep frozen, right?
Yeah, 7 days usually plus.
Like super, because it has this tapeworm.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bad news.
They're gonna come out.
It's bad.
Yeah.
You can't. So if I'm on a boat and I catch a wild salmon, I can't just eat it.
No.
Because I get a tapeworm.
Yeah.
It's bad news.
Yeah, no, don't eat that.
Don't eat that. Diphyllobothrum latum.
I think also that changes maybe out in Alaska when you're catching it straight from the water.
Yeah.
And you're not having time. And depending on where, time of year, very different than the time they ship here.
Yeah.
Especially anywhere in the States. They're getting it like time they land them, gut them, clean them, ice them, send them in a plane. You don't know how they're being handled,
Stuff
like that. Yeah.
So what time of year can you get fresh, wild salmon? Spring, summer.
Spring, summer.
And how long does it last?
Every year's a little different. I think they hit quotas at different times, depending on how much they're catching. So, like I remember last year, I think it was like I started hearing about them coming around like late May, and by the beginning of July, they were like
gone. So there's really only like a month and a half per year.
As far here,
yeah.
Like remember,
I guess we're pretty far.
We're
in Miami, yeah, pretty far
from where be saying so. I know on the Pacific, like in like Washington and like in BC and stuff like that, it's different. But they don't really do it commercially. Like as far as like what's like they do it commercially like for those markets there and stuff like that. It's different. But here, you're not seeing it.
So most of the time when you're getting wild fish, it's going to be frozen and thawed. Salmon,
Yeah.
but not other fish.
Yeah.
How does it work with other fish, like tuna?
Depending on where you're getting them from. Some come out of Central America, some are coming out of these domestic inside the U.S., some even out of the Caribbean and different areas. Unless you're getting like the bluefins, a lot of them are coming from Spain, which are also farmed.
Okay.
Most of the time they're farmed, but it's not farmed the same way you think. They're kind of being caught first.
Okay.
They're caught in the wild, moved into pens, fattened up,
Okay.
and then taken out piece by piece. So rather than killing the whole herd of them at once,
You take them out one at a time.
taking them out one at a time. So the quality and
What do they fatten them up on for the tuna in the pens?
same thing. They're using natural, like they're using the sardines and the different things that they're catching in the area.
And they make it into a pellet?
I believe the tunas they're not feeding that way. I
Oh,
don't think
they're
they'll
just-
eat that stuff.
They're catching fish. But with the salmon, you said they catch stuff and they make it into a pellet?
Yeah, they grind that same way like they make dog foods. You know?
Well, when they make dog food, they put a whole bunch of other junk in it.
Correct. Which is, that's what I said. There's different levels to which.
So is this fed like dog food food pellets or like good pellets?
No, what I'm saying to you is like that's the same thing. Like you can go into a dog food store and get dog food.
Good dog food versus bad dog food. Correct. So when you have farmed salmon, there's all these levels of farmed salmon, and you can do it well, or you can do it poorly. Correct. So most of what I see, like in Costco, farmed Atlantic salmon.
That's why you'll see the pricing is
different.
Significantly.
Right, because this is $31 a pound.
Correct.
This is $23 a pound, and what I see in Costco is $9 to $12 a pound. Exactly. So that's the difference, is the quality.
Yeah. You're good. And
you can taste it.
100%.
Did you know at Costco they charge you $2 more to have antibiotic-free farm-raised salmon? This is crazy. They have farm-raised salmon, $10 a pound, and they have farm-raised salmon with a little sticker that says antibiotic-free, $12 a pound. So $12, $2 extra.
For me, I mean, I've never bought fish in like.
Of course, you never bought fish in Costco.
I've never bought fish. I hear from people about it, and they tell me what the prices. They'll be like, "Oh, you know, I get for what I get for this much, I get a whole huge side at Costco." I'm like, "Wow."
Yeah, not the same quality.
Big difference.
How long have you had this store?
2.5 years.
Why'd you open it?
There's no quality fish.
There's no quality fish in Miami.
Yeah.
And what do you got here? Tell me more about this stuff.
So here you got Florida Pompano, Florida Yellowtails, you've got Dover Sole, Brancinos, and then we have like different fillets that already do filleted out because people really don't. Like these are the larger fish. You got like Corvinas, Chilean sea bass, grouper, all those we get in whole every morning and cut them all up.
So are these, so Brancino can be farmed too, right?
It can be farmed, it can also be wild. It can be both ways. Because depending on the region, what area you're getting.
Is this farmed or wild?
Wild.
This is wild Brancino.
Out of Spain.
Okay.
And then you get a lot of, and then there's a lot, majority of what you see are usually Greek and Turkish.
Brancino, yeah.
Majority you'll see are Greek and Turkish, which are all farmed. And then there's levels to farm too. The same.
But this is what's cool about getting a place like this. Like you can tell me about the quality of the farming. If I go to Costco, I have no idea.
Yeah, good luck there.
Yeah, no, you have no idea. Florida Pompano. All right. What do you like? Like, what's your favorite type of fish? Chilean sea bass is good.
I'm not a fish.
You don't like it?
It's too fatty for me.
Too fatty?
For me.
Do you eat ribeyes?
No, I don't eat meat.
Why don't you eat meat? Bro.
Honestly, I don't eat meat. I don't like. For me, it's too chewy. It's too much like work.
You got to do work. It's for your jawline.
It's too much work.
You just want smoothies?
No,
I'll make you a meat smoothie. I can make it so you don't have to chew meat.
But no, like for me, grouper is always.
You like grouper?
Love it. These are always excellent. Depending on what you're cooking, like what you're making, like because I feel like every fish has its own design depending on what you're trying to do with it. Like and how you like to eat it. Like for instance, like if I'm doing like if I'm making like fish sandwiches or like or things like that, I always go with groupers. I like black and grilled, like done and it holds well. It's tasty and right. I'm doing like sautéed fish, like flounders. Like, you know, it's really good. It's sautéed butter and lime and lemon, and it's easy.
So you don't eat meat at all?
Very rare.
I got some really good jerky in the car. Can I give you some jerky? Would you eat some jerky?
I really won't.
You don't want to try some jerky?
I don't eat that kind of stuff.
You don't eat? Why don't you eat that? Do you want to try some jerky?
These guys eat.
You guys know when I'm out like filming videos all day, I gotta have some snacks. Sometimes I just throw a burger, or sometimes I bring some Lineage air-dried steak, but let's see what these guys think of some air-dried steak. Here, just put your hand out. I'll shake some in there for you.
Not very dry.
No, it's good, right? It's like moist. Is it good?
Yes, it is.
Scale of 1 to 10.
Give it a solid 10.
A 10? Whoa, we got a 10. We got a 10 out of 10 from this guy, so all right, cool. Air-dried steak, guys. All right, guys. So that's a video about how to buy fish at Costco and maybe how not to buy fish at Costco. I learned some stuff in that video. We got a 10 out of 10 for the Lineage air-dried steak. Pretty good stuff. So what did we learn? We learned that most farmed salmon is garbage. All the Atlantic salmon at Costco is garbage. But we also learned that farmed salmon can have levels. And I guess, you know, he's got some pretty good stuff here at Catch here in Miami. They've got some farm-raised salmon from the Faroe Islands, which is actually well done, maybe. And maybe some Ora salmon from New Zealand, which is perhaps better than regular farm-raised salmon. And I've heard of other places that do better farm-raised salmon. So, but I think the farm-raised salmon you're gonna find at Costco is pretty low level. And if you're looking for fresh, wild meat or salmon, oof, only certain time of the year, May, June, July, that's it. But I tell you, I haven't eaten fish in a long time because I just don't love the heavy metals and the microplastics and the PFAs in it. Maybe I'll actually do that with the Animal-Based Nutrition Research Foundation, my nonprofit. Maybe we'll test some of this well-farmed salmon versus wild salmon for PFAs and microplastics. I'll keep you guys posted about that. But I don't know, that sounds like there's levels to it. I will tell you that in the past, many years ago, when I had wild salmon that was fresh, king salmon, like in May or June, it was pretty damn good. I just don't run into that much. So you're gonna get frozen salmon, which to me doesn't taste as well. I'd rather eat beef. But it's cool to meet this guy. I appreciate him telling me his story. And in case you guys didn't know, we are doing an animal-based gathering in Costa Rica, May 22nd to the 26th. That's the Animal-Based Nutrition Research Foundation. Come down. It's gonna be an amazing weekend of like surfing. We're gonna go out to an island to snorkel. We're gonna be hanging out. So check out the animalbasedgathering.com. Maybe I'll see you in Costa Rica, and I'll see you in the next video. And if you are someone that likes to shop at Costco, I've done a full video about how to buy meat at Costco. Go check it out. I'll put a link here. I'll help you out with all your Costco shopping.